For those of you that don't know LiveIntent, just because I'm not going to cover the core business, so we're going to talk about some new stuff today. But in the core business, 13 years ago, we created the first ad server for email. Yeah, it's really sexy. We're in the plumbing business, so there was no ad servers that worked in email. And so that's what we built, so that publishers like the New York Times, Wall Street Journal, and Washington Post could actually sell advertising in their emails. And so we just made it programmatic. But Google and everybody that wants to buy ads in email goes through LiveIntent tech. So DSPs can bid on our inventory, and SSPs are actually sometimes bidding on it, which is interesting. And on one side, we're monetization for email. We do this for both brands and publishers. And on the other side, we're helping brands and publishers and anybody else that wants to do acquisition, so net new acquisition, retention, and reactivation on the exchange. So reaching their customers in different lists across our exchange, or doing net new customer acquisition. In the middle of this, is a bunch of data. So we're building, the fumes of our business is a lot of identity. Probably the 5th largest identity graph in the country. And here's the metrics, I won't go through it all, but we see a lot of people, about 270 million people every single month as they consume email. Newsletters, alerts, announcements, transactional emails sent by all these companies. Next. So we've got some major headwinds, and this is what's inspiring. I get the thrill of actually creating new product, and I've been doing that for a long time. I'm one of the co-founders of LiveIntent. It's one of my favorite things to do. And so I'm always thinking about like big headwinds, what's the big issue, what are we going to dive into, and how can we actually help our customers? These headwinds include, there's a lot of disintermediation that's actually happening between you and the people you serve. I don't like to call them customers, I don't like to call them users. They're people, they deserve that respect, they're humans, and I don't like to name people based on what they can do for me. So why is this happening? Well, Apple MPP, they took one of your best signals away a couple years ago, the open rate, or the actual open. Why is that important? It's good to know who's truly active and who's not. So you lost one of your best signals, now you're stuck with clicks, and you're stuck with activity that you can see on your owned and operated properties. But it's a very, very thin amount of activity, a measure of activity from a consumer. Even if you're Amazon, you only see that people on your Amazon properties, and they're absolutely huge. But they have signal issues, which is why we're talking to them today at 4 o'clock. So even if you're the largest company, you have a signal issue. Now, of course, Apple already, turned off the ability to track people on Safari, so Safari, Mozilla, a bunch of other browsers, but Google's going to go cookie-free. So what's that mean? It means when someone shows up on your website, you don't know who they are. So you could be treating your best customer like a stranger, right? That's not fun. So there's lots of issues with disintermediation. You're losing signal all over the place, and that is the issue that we're going to cover. The list growth is also impacted by this. When Facebook lost its ability to find, to recognize customers across a lot of environments, they lost the ability to do performance marketing. What ended up happening is they had less inventory, and less people are actually going to Facebook anyway, so prices doubled. So your CPAs have doubled over time. In the last 2.5 years, it's a lot more expensive to acquire net new people. And that's a lot, around identity and the loss of signal, which is one reason why that went up. Next, I push the green button. I'll push it again. There we go. So let's click into some issues with email reactivation and why that is so difficult. I don't have to convince everyone that reactivation is a good idea, but it's especially important now. A lot of people are having trouble actually keeping list growth up. List growth is actually on the decline over the last 2.5 years across the hundreds of customers that we talk to. And they're trying to make that up in net new. That's really hard to do if your cost per acquisition is doubled. So by doing net new and reactivation, you can get back to actually positive list growth and drive revenue. The issue with reactivation is, one, limited resources. Sally, who used to work on Winback, left, and there was no roadmap or recipe for success. Or they did something and it really didn't work, so nobody's allocated money to it because it didn't work very well. The other thing is when you're looking into a database of dormant, it could be 1 million. Amazon's got like 150 million people on the dormant file. It's hard to actually pick the right people to re-engage with. So you end up actually getting a cross-section of your entire dormant file, which means you're mailing people that aren't even active in the inbox. Maybe they haven't opened it anything. So now you're just sending email to people that aren't going to respond or very unlikely to actually respond to you. So that's an issue, because if you're actually sending it to a mix of your dormant file, you're going to have shitty delivery. So, and that's going to cause deliverability issues because it's just not going to have high engagement. You're going to see high complaints and bounces. And then for some, their list is just so big that they're afraid of it. So they don't want to touch it. We have several clients with over 100 million people on their dormant file. So we create a whole bunch of new products under what we call email intelligence. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what list it is. It helps you understand who's on my list, what are they most interested in, and who should I engage with more now because they're super active, and who should I actually not engage with, and actually maybe just put them back on the dormant file. So you've lost your open rate, so you've lost that signal, and what we're doing is we're replacing it with a global view of this person in their inbox across hundreds or thousands of publishers and brands. We've tagged not only the emails, all the websites, and the apps. So we're actually leveraging one of the biggest activity signals in North America. So on dormant, I'll go into that a little bit. The active list insights, prospecting list insights, dormant list insights, I'm not going to go deep into, but here's the idea. Every retailer has a prospecting list. These are the people that signed up, gave you an email, have not purchased. That's the prospecting list. You have an active list and a dormant list. So you have to work that list. We have to figure out how to get people active. And then once people are active, we have to actually help you figure out when to deactivate them. They go back on the dormant list, and we'll actually help you decide when to bring them back. So just managing across all those lists and bringing people in and out on a regular basis makes a lot of sense. So let's go into meeting your best customer again, which is all about win back. So now imagine a world where you can actually look into your dormant file, identify the people with the highest propensity to actually re-engage with your brand, and then you can only send to them, and you can ignore everybody else. So you're probably going to see like double the engagement rates. Open, click rate, conversion does really well. So now you're actually only getting the right people. You're ignoring the people that aren't going to react. And then so it improves deliverability. By doing this with acquisition, you get back to list growth, and now you can actually have much larger segments to activate, not only by sending them email, but actually activating them across Facebook, LiveIntent, and other systems so you can do like, omni-channel marketing. So here's how we're actually doing it. We get the dormant file, we score the whole thing, we stack rank it, and we tell you actually who to mail every day. It's really that simple. It's not that complicated. We can give it you once a week or once a day. It depends on how you want it. And we are using actually AI and machine learning to actually help us predict who has the highest propensity. To me, it's almost like ad serving. So real-time decisioning, figuring out. Eventually, we'll go from daily to probably hourly, and some of this stuff is going to turn into triggers. So we're recommending people to reactivate, like I said, every day or every week. And then we're giving someone a file to actually mail. A lot of people are actually just, their CRM team's mailing that portion, but a lot of them are actually saying, hey, can you give me the top 50% so I can actually put that entire dormant file on Facebook? Can I launch that on LiveIntent? When you give me my slices on a Monday, like the next Monday, can I trigger a direct mail piece? Yeah, absolutely. So you should be doing omni-channel. Not just using one channel to reactivate. Meet people where they are. Why not? So how is it working? Brad's deals, they sell products, but they're also it's like retail media. They've got ads in their email, ads on their website. They're selling product. They've been a partner for a long time, but they had list decline for 2 years. Every single quarter, they saw a list decline. They've got 34 million people on their dormant file. We've only eaten up like 7% of that. There's a long way to go. We're actually giving them 300,000 RTRs, recommended to reactivate people, every single week. Now they're back to list growth. And it's got a 5.1 or 5.9% ROARs, return on reactivation spend. They can do this all day long. They're making their money back in week 1. So the system is actually paying for itself. Third Love. We're talking more about lingerie and bras and underwear. They did a test in Q4. They just came back last week with the results. They said it would take 6 months to get the results. They came back in 3 months and they said, no, this is good enough. We can move forward with it. And they saw 125% improvement. So this is all lift over a control group. 125% lift in click-through rate, 120% improvement in conversion rate, 36% higher purchase rate. Again, it's had a 12% repurchase rate within the first month, which is actually really high. And then 90% more net revenue growth, test over control. So this is actually a really important thing. We actually then also scored their entire active file and did list intelligence on that. And we found a bunch of really interesting things. Like, for one, they are actually doing the same loyalty thing for everyone. But we looked at the segment of people that were making over $100,000. Like, do you have to discount for these people? Probably not. How about think about discounting for people that have lower incomes, or finding different ways of actually doing it? Or separating one of the issues they had a lot of people over 55, but they have younger segments they actually want to cater to. They're sending all the same stuff to the same groups. They're actually looking at generational changes in what they should be offering people, making sure that it's super relevant. So I thought that was interesting. And then Dotdash Meredith, they have over 100 million people on their dormant file. We're working across 20 different brands to reactivate and do active list insights, so we can figure out when to deactivate, when to reactivate, and helping them manage that whole process across all those brands. They saw 76% more ad clicks and 66% more ad revenue. A lot of their money, they primarily make their money on advertising, so this is actually a big change for them. And so, top 5 takeaways of what we learned over the last couple of years. CPMs of reactivated people, they're just more valuable than the average. So when you look at an average performance of an active list, if you do it really well, the RTR group is going to outperform your active list. From a CPM perspective, a lot of times from other perspectives as well. Return on reactivation spend, especially in retail, we're seeing up to 30-to-1 ROAS. During Black Friday and Cyber Monday last year, we did this with Laura Geller, which is a makeup brand. They had a 35-to-1 ROAS. TeePublic just sells t-shirts. They had a 24-to-1 ROAS. So it's actually not that uncommon to see that, and they're making their money back within a week, or sometimes within the first week of mailing. It's not true. There's a bunch of ESPs that are telling our customers, hey, when you give this data to LiveIntent, only give them 2 years of data. Has anyone ever heard that? The best practice is to actually, if you're going to reactivate, only go back 2 years. Or how about you do an ESP migration and they say, don't put all that data in our system, let's just put the dormants from the last 2 years. It's not because it's actually a great idea, it's just that they don't want to clog up the system, they're not sure who to go after in the first place. So we're bringing all that data back, but don't stick it all in your ESP, don't stick 5 million, 20 million, 100 million people back into it. Just put in the segments that we're recommending to reactivate. And it's better for the ESP, it's better for everybody. But it's not true. Give us data all the way back 20 years. What we're doing is we're marking the time period that was dormant, and we're actually reactivating people that have been on the list for over 20 years. So, just think about that. Performance is often 2x better than historical, so even if you have a win-back program, we think that we have a good chance of actually beating the performance of that. And then this last one is when we talk about list growth, it's 5 to 20 times cheaper to actually reactivate someone than to get a net new customer. So if you're not doing this, you're sitting on a mound of gold, take advantage of it. It'll actually drive some incremental growth this year that you maybe didn't expect. And that's about it. If you want to learn more, you can reach out to me. There's a QR code, so you can use that. And thank you very much. Appreciate it.
All right.